gonna cover a next module within this module. So we're gonna cover a new concept here, and let me clear up everything we have on the screen. And that's the idea of being able to break and continue within loops. All right, so what we've seen here is we can do for loops, we can do while loops, we can take while loops and mix them with if conditions. But if a while loop is going, how can I break out of that while loop so that it stops? This is what this particular concept would tell us. And the example that we're going to use for this would be, again, going through the scenario of being able to print. All right, let me well, let's just implement a new one here. Let's just say count. All right, we want to start again with count equals 0. All right, and we're going to do a very simple while loop here, right? So while count is, say, greater than 15 as an example, what we're gonna do, and just bear with me here to make sure that we're following the same content. All right, or let's actually do it this way. Let's say while true. All right, because it's always going to be true unless we tell it to be false. While true, we want to go ahead and do something. All right, let's go ahead and print count, and then we're going to increment count. Bear with me. So we're going to go ahead and increment count plus 1. Now, if I just simply leave it at this and I run this code, what's going to happen? This would be a problem, because I've just simply said while true, whatever true is just always going to be true, right? Because remember, while conditions are just simply checking if some condition here is correct, right? But if I've just forced it to say that condition is always correct, and this is while true, print count and increment count, then we're going to put ourselves into what is called an infinite loop, because there's nothing to ever break this. I'm going to run it, but I'll stop the code because it's never ever going to stop. So if I run this, all right, you see it can print from now to eternity, and it's never ever going to stop because there's no condition that I've put in here to stop this from going to an infinite loop. So that's what we need to fix. Now I'm going to pause this because I can go forever and ever, and then we want to figure out how to be able to break infinite loops like that. So how do we do it? We can now throw in a condition in there to say if count is ever greater than 35, greater than or equals to 35. All right, now we want to do something. And what is that thing we want to do? We want to break. All right, as simple as that. We simply just want to break this loop and never continue again. If we ever reach the point where count is greater than or equals to 35, just go ahead and break that statement. Now this is as simple as writing from counting from 1 to 30, counting from 0 to 35 or 1 to 35, 0 to 34 or 1 to 35. And so there you go. We've introduced the idea of being able to break out of a loop. All right, and if we can break by just using the statement break, we can equally continue by using the statement continue. And that's what we're gonna do in the next scenario here. And for this one, we're gonna do a for loop. All right, so for x in range, and let's just write a quick for loop here, and let's make that range 10. All right, so what we can do here for an x, we can say if x is let's do a simple check. If x is an even number, meaning that that will be equal to 0. All right, if x is an even number, then we want to go ahead and print x. All right, we want to go ahead and print x. Actually, we should go ahead and just continue, and I'll explain this a little bit. Otherwise, we want to go ahead and print. X. All right, so for x in a range, and let me comment this previous code out. So for x in a range, so counting from, starting from say 0, right, and the range is 10. If that's an even number, we want to continue. If it's not an even number, we want to print X. So what are we going to see on the screen? We're going to print only odd numbers, because if it's an even number, right, if this mod is 0, it's not going to print anything. It's just going to continue the loop. We could have decided to break the loop and just stop it right there once we see the first even number. All right, but in this case, we're going to print all odd numbers. So let's go ahead and run this. Now it just prints us all the odd numbers, right? If I change my range to say 1000, this will print all the odd numbers from 1 to 1000. All right, because it's gonna say if it checks the condition, is this an even number? Basically, when you're doing mod 2, it says nope. It says yes, it's an even number, and then you just say continue. It doesn't print anything, it just continues, and from here it continues back to the loop. It doesn't continue to print this, it continues back to the loop. All right, and it continues back to the loop. And otherwise, if it checks and this is not an even, so there's a remainder, which means it's an odd number, then it's gonna print that X. So let's run it to 1000, and you can see all the odd numbers from 1 to 1000 are printed. So that's the idea of being able to use break conditions to break out of loops, right? Because remember when we showed this example, if you have a loop and we're just kind of going in a loop, you can never come out of that loop unless you say, if I reach a point where I feel like a method that I have here, right, on my band, then break out of it. Then that condition breaks out, and then you don't have a loop anymore. But if I don't put that break condition, it will never break out of it, right? If I just say, if you reach this, continue, it's just gonna keep continuing and going like that. All right, so that's how we can use continue and break within functions, within loops, to be able to achieve a lot in Python. All right, guys, this takes us as